Hello students, our scientists are yet to locate a planet other than Earth that has life forms in it. Earth is at perfect distance from the Sun, which provides all the suitable living conditions for the living organisms. Most of the living organisms need ambient temperature, water and food. Natural resources like air, sunlight, soil, and water available on Earth meets all the necessary requirements for the living organisms. Earth has mainly three layers: crust, mantle, and core. The outer thin shell of Earth is known as the crust. The brittle crust, along with the top part of the mantle, is known as the lithosphere. Lithosphere is the coolest and the most rigid part of Earth. Water is found around 75% of Earth's surface. Water is also found underground. The total amount of water present in Earth is known as the hydrosphere. Air covers Earth like a blanket. These layers of gases that cover Earth is known as the atmosphere. Atmosphere, hydrosphere and lithosphere interact with each other and make the life possible on Earth. The zone in which the atmosphere, hydrosphere and lithosphere interact is known as the biosphere. Biosphere contain all the living organisms and the abiotic components like water, soil and air from where they derive their nutrients and energy. The biotic component of the biosphere is the living organisms. In this chapter, we will learn in detail about the abiotic components of the biosphere and their role in sustaining life on Earth. Air is a mixture of many gases like nitrogen, oxygen, argon, carbon dioxide, neon, helium, krypton, hydrogen, xenon, as well as water vapor. Even the composition of air results in the life forms on Earth. Our atmosphere contains around 21% of oxygen. All living organisms need oxygen for their survival. They need oxygen to convert glucose stored in their body into energy. During this process, carbon dioxide is produced. When combustion takes place, there will be a consumption of oxygen and production of carbon dioxide. Forest fires result in the production of carbon dioxide as well. Life is not possible in an atmosphere filled with carbon dioxide, but the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere of Earth is fixed in two ways. The green plants convert carbon dioxide into glucose in the presence of sunlight, and this process is called photosynthesis. Many marine animals use carbonates dissolved in seawater to make their shells. Most of these shells are made up of calcium carbonate. But the major component of atmosphere in Venus and Mars is carbon dioxide, constituting around 95 to 97% of its whole atmosphere. This kind of atmosphere will not support life forms. We learned that the atmosphere covers Earth like a blanket. You know, air is a bad conductor of heat. As the molecules of gases are far apart, the transfer of heat will not happen in a faster rate. But in solids, the heat will transfer in faster rates as the molecules are tightly packed. The atmosphere keeps the average temperature on Earth steady during the day and even during the course of whole year. Atmosphere prevents the sudden increase of temperature due to sunlight during day and prevents the loss of heat into outer space during night and thereby help us from freezing. Do you know there is a drastic temperature fluctuation in moon ranging from minus 190 degrees Celsius to 110 degrees Celsius. This drastic change is due to the lack of atmosphere on moon. As moon lacks atmosphere, there is nothing to prevent the immediate rise and fall in temperature. We should be thankful to our atmosphere. Sand and water get heated up in different rate. Land heats and cools more quickly than water. Land has soil and soil is a good conductor of heat. It absorbs more solar radiations than water and gets heated up quickly than water. But water will reflect most of the radiations falling on it. That is why water takes more time to get heated up than soil. Not only that, the specific heat capacity of water is higher compared to soil. Specific heat is the heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of a substance to 1 degree Celsius. As the specific heat capacity of water is high, it needs more heat to raise the temperature than that of land. So, water takes more time to get heated up compared to soil. You can experience this if you walk on beachside during a hot summer. The soil will be too hot to walk with barefoot, but the water will still be cold. Now, soil loses its heat much faster than water. Sea retains heat for much longer period, and not only that, water has to lose more energy than sand in order to cool down. As a result, soil cools down much faster than water. That is the reason soil is cool during night than water. Think about a scenario where we are out in a hot sunny day. You might have noticed that we get exhausted and sweat a lot. After this hot day, if you get exposed to cool breeze, how much relief it would bring to you. You will notice all of a sudden your sweat will go away and you will feel relaxed, right? Same way, if we get rain after few days of hot weather, we feel rejoiced. If you listen to weather forecast, you will realize that some days there will be occurrence of rain and other days have gentle breeze and some other days of the year we might have terrible storm. But have you ever wondered what could be the cause of these different weather conditions? These changes are happening due to the heating of air in the atmosphere and the formation of water vapor. Water present in the atmosphere in gaseous form is the water vapor. This water vapor is formed due to the evaporation of water from water bodies due to heating. When land and water get heated up, they reflect some of this heat back into the atmosphere through radiation. When being heated, the convection current is set up in the air. Convection current means the air above the land becomes hot. The air above this land, it will become hot and it will move up. As the air rises, it expands and cools down. This movement of air in the upward direction is called the convection current. Let's see what happens in coastal areas during day. During day, due to the radiations from the sun, the land and water in oceans get heated up. But I explained earlier that the soil gets heated up faster than water. When soil gets heated up, it radiates some heat back into the atmosphere. As a result, the air just above the land, this air gets heated up and it moves up. This warmer air is lighter and less dense than the surrounding air. As a result, it rises up. When this air rises, it expands due to lower pressure that exists in the upper atmosphere. As this heated air moves up, it forms a low pressure area just above the land. But the air above the ocean is still cold as the water takes time to get heated. Due to this, there will be high pressure above the ocean. This air above ocean moves towards land. What does that mean? Air moves from a high pressure area to a low pressure area. This is the wind. Hence, wind flows from ocean to land during day. At night, both ocean and land cools down. But we learned water cools down slowly when compared to soil. So, water in oceans remains somewhat hot, and that helps to form a low pressure area above the ocean because the heated air has moved up. Since land cools down very fast, the air above the land will create high pressure area above land. Then air moves from high pressure area to low pressure area. This means air will move from land to ocean. In other words, we can say wind will flow from land to ocean during night. All the movement of air is caused by uneven heating of the atmosphere in different regions of Earth. Apart from temperature differences, there are other factors that affect wind, like rotation of Earth, the presence of mountain ranges in the paths of wind, etc. Let's learn more about rain. We know that water bodies get heated up due to radiations from sun. A large amount of water gets evaporated and fills into the air. The air just above the water bodies gets heated up as well. This hot air moves up, taking this water vapor along with it. And as the air rises, it expands and cools down. Due to this cooling of air, water vapor in air gets converted into tiny water droplets. These are the tiny water droplets. This water gets condensed around the dust and other suspended particles present in air. These are the clouds. Once the water droplets are formed this way, they start to grow by adding more and more water droplets. When they grow bigger and heavy, due to gravity, they will fall in the form of rain. This is the precipitation. When the temperature in the atmosphere is very low, the moisture or water vapor present in the atmosphere will be in the form of tiny ice crystals. These ice crystals stick together and form snowflakes. When they become heavy, they will fall as snow. Precipitation may occur in the form of sleet or hail. Sleet means rain containing some ice. Rainfall patterns are decided by the prevailing wind patterns. In large parts of India, rains are mostly brought by southwest or northwest monsoons. Now let's understand what causes the southwest monsoon. During summer months, the lands get heated and air above the land goes up. This air goes up, creating a low pressure area. Here will be low pressure. Then the cool air from the surrounding ocean flows into this low pressure area and takes the place. This is the southwest wind. The rainfall itself is due to the cooling of air as it rises. We are very familiar with the term air pollution. Air pollution is the contamination of air due to the presence of some harmful gases or chemicals. Presence of these pollutants reduce the quality of air and this creates many health issues. The fossil fuels like coal and petroleum contain nitrogen and sulfur. Due to combustion of these fossil fuels, nitrogen and sulfur comes in contact with oxygen and forms different oxides of nitrogen and sulfur. These oxides stay in the atmosphere. If we breathe the air that contains these chemicals, it will damage our health. Not only that, when these nitrogen oxides or sulfur oxides react with water vapor and oxygen in the atmosphere, they form acidic chemicals. These acidic chemicals dissolve in rain and form acid rain. When this acid rain falls into seas and lakes, it becomes harmful to aquatic animals. It also causes paint to peel off and results in corrosion of metals. Acid rain has bad impacts on human health as well. The combustion of fossil fuels will increase the amount of unburned carbon particles or hydrocarbons in the atmosphere. These chemicals, when mixed with fog in the atmosphere, especially in cold weather, reduces the visibility and it is known as the smog. This is visible indication of air pollution. If we happen to breathe the air containing these kinds of toxic chemicals, it will lead to allergies, cancer and diseases related to heart. In the beginning of this lesson, we learned around 75% of earth is covered with water. Most of the water is in the water bodies. Some amount of water is present underground. But the water present in oceans and seas are saline. Fresh water is found in rivers, lakes, ponds and underground. During summer, most of the places in our country faces shortage of water, especially in rural areas where the water supply systems are absent. People walk long distance to fetch water. Human body is about 60% of water by weight. Water regulates our body temperature, protects our tissues, helps in the removal of waste materials in the form of sweat and urine, helps to prevent constipation, helps in digestion, and all the cellular processes takes place in water medium. Substances are also transported from one part of the body to other part in a dissolved form. Not only humans, all the animals need water in order to stay alive. But we need fresh water for our body as our body cannot tolerate the high amounts of dissolved salts in saline water. The availability of water in a given area largely influences the number of variety of plants and animals in that area. Abundance of life forms can be seen in an area where the availability of rain is more. Any undesirable substances dissolved in water leads to contamination of water is called water pollution. Let's learn the causes of water pollution. We use pesticides and insecticides in the farm. When these chemicals reach the water bodies due to the surface runoff after rain, that adversely affects the aquatic life forms. Mercury salts are used in paper industries. When dissolved in water, it could be poisonous. There could be disease-causing bacteria that contaminate water. For example, the bacteria that causes cholera. The removal of desirable substances from water, like oxygen and other nutrients, will also lead to water pollution. Amount of oxygen in water is reduced due to the presence of high amount of oxygen consuming bacteria or algal growth. We know that aquatic organisms use oxygen dissolved in water. If the amount of oxygen gets reduced due to any reason, that will adversely affect the aquatic life. A sudden change in temperature in water bodies will affect the breeding of aquatic organisms. The eggs and larvae of various animals are susceptible to temperature fluctuations. Soil is a very influencing factor in the diversity of life in a particular area. Let's learn how the soil is formed. Over millions of years ago, the earth was covered with rocks. These rocks were broken down by physical, chemical, and biological processes and eventually formed the fine particles of soil. Let's understand the process by which the soil is formed and the factors involved in the formation of soil. The sun heats up the rocks during day. This will cause the rocks to expand. At night, when the atmosphere cools down, rocks will cool down as well. This results in the contraction of rocks. But all the part of the rock will not expand and contract at the same rate. This results in the formation of cracks. These are the cracks. And eventually, these big rocks will break into smaller pieces. These smaller pieces again break down. Another factor is water. Water helps in the formation of soil. When rain happens, water gets collected in these cracks of rocks, which are formed by the uneven heating. When the atmospheric temperature falls down, this water gets frozen. inside these cracks, and that widens the cracks. In another method, fast flowing water often carries small and big rocks along with it. During this journey, these rocks rub against one another, and the resultant abrasion causes the rocks to wear down into smaller particles. Flowing water carries these particles and deposits it further down its path. Soil is thus formed in places far away from its parent rock. Wind also helps in the formation of soil in the similar manner as water. Wind carries sand from one place to another. Living organisms influence the formation of soil. Lichens grow on the surface of rocks. Lichens are a symbiotic relationship between algae and fungus. In this relationship, one or both the organisms get benefited. While growing, these lichens release some substances. These lichens will release some substances that cause the rock surface to powder down and form thin layer of soil. Small plants like moss are able to grow on the surface, and they lead to further breakdown of rocks. The roots of big trees sometimes go into these cracks of the rocks. These roots will go into these cracks of the rocks. As the roots grow bigger, the crack widens and breaks down. Soil is a mixture. It contains small particles of rock. The dead organisms get decayed in the soil by the action of microorganisms. As a result, soil contains microorganisms and decaying living organisms. The organic component of soil is formed by the decomposition of leaves, plant parts, and other living organisms. This organic component of soil is called the humus. This humus will improve the quality of soil as it will help in the growth of plants. The type of soil is decided by the average size of particles present in it. The mineral nutrients that are found in the soil depends on the rocks it was formed from. This quality and type of soil decides which plants would thrive on that soil, as the mineral requirement of plants varies from one plant to another. The topmost layer of soil that contains humus and living organisms in addition to the soil particles is called the topsoil. The quality of the topsoil greatly influences the biodiversity of that area. We learned about air and water pollution. Have you heard about soil pollution? Removal of useful components from the soil and addition of other substances which adversely affect the fertility of the soil and kills the organisms that live in it is called soil pollution. Nowadays, we are using more than a required quantity of pesticides, insecticides, and fertilizers. This can kill the microorganisms living in soil, which recycles the nutrients and thereby destroying the soil structure. You might be aware that earthworms are called farmers' friend. They loosen the soil and thereby help in aeration and water to reach the plant roots easily. Earthworms' excreta increases the soil fertility, but the usage of pesticides for a long time will kill the earthworms. These are the effects of soil pollution. We learned earlier that water helped in the formation of soil from rocks, but the fine particles of soil may be carried away by flowing water or wind. If soil gets washed away in this manner, these underneath rocks will get exposed and very little plants can grow on it. This is soil erosion. This is a very slow process and thereby occur unnoticed, but it will result in serious loss of topsoil. Plant roots help to prevent soil erosion by holding it in position. As a result of large scale deforestation, eventually in future there will be lack of plant roots to prevent soil erosion. The topsoil, which is very fertile, is removed quickly, and this process is very difficult to reverse. As a result of this, crop production is reduced. Our biosphere is always in a balance by the interaction between biotic and abiotic components. There are many processes involved in the maintenance of this balance. Let's learn about water cycle. Water is an essential component of living organisms. Water rises from the water bodies into the atmosphere in the form of water vapor. It condenses and forms the clouds and then returns to earth as precipitation. This is known as the water cycle or hydraulic cycle. But this cycle is not as simple as it sounds. The water from water bodies is continuously evaporated into the atmosphere. But have you ever thought why the water bodies are not drying up? The reason is water cycle. Water from water bodies get evaporated into the atmosphere as water vapors due to heat radiations from sun. The water from plants also evaporated into the atmosphere by a process called transpiration. This hot water vapor rises into the atmosphere, expands and cools down. This cooling leads to the formation of tiny water droplets. These water droplets together with the gases and dust in the atmosphere condenses and forms the cloud. These clouds grow larger and larger due to the addition of more water droplets and become heavy. Wind causes these clouds to collide, and finally, these water droplets fall to earth as precipitation. All the water that falls on land does not flow back to oceans. Some of it seeps into the soil and becomes a part of the fresh groundwater. Some of this groundwater comes into the surface through springs, wells, and tube wells. Water is used by the animals and plants for their life processes. Rocks contain minerals like quartz, micas, calcite, etc. When water flows over these rocks, some of the minerals get dissolved in water. This water flows into the rivers. Rivers carry these minerals from land to the sea, where these minerals can be used by aquatic organisms. Thus, water from water bodies get evaporated into the atmosphere, and through many processes, it comes back into the water bodies. This is the water cycle. Nitrogen gas makes up around 78% of the atmosphere. Nitrogen is an essential component in all living organisms, both plants and animals. All animals have DNA and RNA in their body. These are the nucleic acids. Nucleic acids contain nitrogen in them. Nitrogen is present in biologically important compounds like alkaloids and urea. But other than some bacteria, no other organisms can convert the atmospheric nitrogen into useful form. Nitrogen fixation, that is conversion of nitrogen into nitrogen compounds which can be used by the organisms, is done mainly in two ways. One is through lightning. When lightning happens, the extreme energy will break the triple bond between nitrogen atoms in the atmosphere. When this bond breaks, nitrogen immediately combines with oxygen in the atmosphere and form nitrogen oxides. Nitrogen oxides are formed. When these nitrogen oxides dissolve in rainwater, they get converted into nitrates. These nitrates, along with rain, reaches the soil. Then this nitrate can be readily absorbed by the plants. In another way, the atmospheric nitrogen is converted into ammonia by nitrogen fixing bacteria. This nitrogen fixing bacteria is mainly present in the root nodules of the leguminous plants like pea plant. These bacteria convert nitrogen into ammonia. Another set of bacteria known as nitrifying bacteria convert this ammonia into nitrite and nitrate. This nitrite and nitrate can be absorbed by the plants. Plants use these nitrogen compounds and convert them into amino acids which are used to make proteins. By using this compound, some other complex compounds can be created in the plant body. When animals feed on plants, they will get these nitrogen compounds as well. When these animals and plants die, microorganisms act on them, and in this decaying process, the complex nitrogen compounds again gets converted into nitrite and nitrate. There are another group of bacteria called denitrifying bacteria. This denitrifying bacteria convert this nitrate into the atmospheric nitrogen and it will return back to atmosphere. Hence the amount of nitrogen in the atmosphere remains a constant. Carbon is found in different forms. Carbon dioxide is present in the atmosphere. Graphite and diamonds are various forms of carbon. All life forms have carbon containing compounds like proteins, carbohydrates, fats, nucleic acids, and vitamins. Endoskeleton of various animals contains carbon. Most of the exoskeleton of aquatic animals is made up of calcium carbonate which contains carbon. Rocks contain carbon in the form of limestone. The atmospheric carbon dioxide is used by living organisms and this carbon dioxide is returned into the atmosphere by various processes and this whole pathway is known as carbon cycle. Plants use atmospheric carbon dioxide to make their food by means of photosynthesis. The food produced is glucose which again contains carbon. This glucose provides plants with energy. When animals feed on these plants, they get these carbon compounds. When these animals and plants dead and decay, some of the carbon is released into the atmosphere and some carbon remains in the soil. This carbon along with the dead remains of the plants and animals get converted into fossil fuels over thousands of years. Coal, oil and natural gas are examples of fossil fuels. We burn these fuels for heating, cooking, transportation and industrial purposes. When we burn these fuels, it adds to the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. The smoke from the industrial factories release carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide is absorbed by the aquatic plants as well to produce food. Let's see what are the other means by which carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere. Plants use carbon dioxide to perform photosynthesis and release oxygen into the atmosphere. Animals breathe in this oxygen through the process called respiration. This oxygen helps in the conversion of glucose into energy in the cells. As a result of this process, which happens in our cell, carbon dioxide is produced. We breathe out carbon dioxide and this carbon dioxide reaches the atmosphere. This is the carbon cycle. The atmospheric carbon dioxide is used by the living organisms and this carbon dioxide is returned into the atmosphere by various processes is known as the carbon cycle. Are you familiar with greenhouse? Greenhouse is a tent-like structure with walls made up of glass. Plants which require regulated climatic conditions grow here. Let's see how it works. In greenhouse, the light energy is converted into heat energy. Light rays from the sun reaches the greenhouse and this light energy is absorbed by the plants and other objects and surfaces inside the greenhouse. When they absorb the light energy, it gets converted into Heat energy. The black surfaces inside the greenhouse absorb all the visible light and convert it into heat energy. White surfaces reflects the light. Due to this heat, the temperature inside the greenhouse increases. But this heat is trapped inside as this glass works as an insulator. It will not allow the heat to escape outside. Thus, the plants will be provided with required climatic conditions. With the help of this greenhouse, tropical plants could be kept warm during winters. Greenhouses have also lent their name to an atmospheric phenomenon known as greenhouse effect. Greenhouse gases include water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and chlorofluorocarbons. An increased amount of these gases in the atmosphere will result in the increase of average temperature worldwide. These gases will trap the heat radiations from the sun inside and will not allow it to escape outside. As a result, the average temperature of Earth increases and it leads to global warming. The amount of oxygen in the atmosphere is around 21%. Oxygen is a very important constituent that supports life. Oxygen is present in the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. In the crust, it is found as oxides of metals and silicon and also as carbonate, sulfate, nitrate and other minerals. It is an essential component of carbohydrates, proteins, nucleic acids and fats. Oxygen cycle maintains the level of oxygen in the atmosphere. Atmospheric oxygen is mainly used for three purposes: combustion, respiration, and formation of oxides of nitrogen. We learned in detail about the formation of oxides of nitrogen in the nitrogen cycle by the lightning. For all these three purposes, oxygen is used. But this oxygen is returned to the atmosphere only through one major process known as photosynthesis. Hence, for maintaining oxygen level in the atmosphere, we need trees and plants. We have to plant more trees for a healthy future. The oxygen which is present in the atmosphere and which can be used by life forms is a diatomic molecule. That means two atoms in one molecule of oxygen, that is O2. But in the upper reaches of the atmosphere, an oxygen molecule containing three atoms can be found, that is O3. This is called ozone. This ozone is poisonous, but as it is in the upper reaches of the atmosphere, it will not affect us. But at the same time, it saves us. It will block all the harmful radiations from the sun and thereby prevent many adverse health conditions. But now the ozone layer is getting depleted. One of the main compounds that attacks the ozone layer is chlorofluorocarbons. It is used in refrigerators. But these chlorofluorocarbons cannot be degraded by any biological processes. They are found persist in the atmosphere. Once they reach the ozone, they release chlorine, which destroys the ozone molecules. This results in the reduction of ozone layer, making holes in it. If the ozone layer is depleted, then UV radiations from sun will reach Earth and will damage human health by causing skin cancers, eye cataracts, and immune deficiency disorders. Now, most of the people are aware of the dangers and they work towards stopping all further damage to ozone layer. That's it about the chapter Natural Resources. If you like this video, please share it with your friends. If you have any queries, put it in the comment box. Thank you.